So on your little sheet there, I give the advice of just, notice that all of these tables start with the same thing and think it through. And I got to show you what I mean by that. So what I mean by that is every table, all four choices, and truth tables in general, the conventional ways to start off with them all going TT, TF, FT, FF. They all do that, right? They all have the same exact entries in the exact same order for these two columns. Both true, first one true, second one false. You can see it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to analyze this statement, not P implying not P and Q, using those exact specific combinations to see which one of these four things matches, right? So I don't need to do the whole crazy table necessarily because these are not overly complicated, but I do need to just kind of think one thing at a time. And so here's my brain, that's my ear, and I'm going to start off by thinking P is true and Q also true, starting off with this very first, what would be the first row of every single one of these things, just to see what happens. And when I write it down or think about it, I'm going to think about the statement we're analyzing, not P implies not P and Q. So I have to know things like and statements are only true when both parts of it are true. Conditional statements are only false when the first part's true and the second part's false. Otherwise, they're true. And just mark things down as I go. So if I'm thinking that the first row says P and Q both true, not P is going to be false, implying false, and we're saying Q is true. So this is what I got to think about. And to figure this out, I could take some time to figure out what's happening inside these parentheses, but honestly it doesn't matter, because if a conditional statement ever starts with false, false arrow anything is always marked as true. So I'm looking for choices where the first guy is marked as true. This guy doesn't have that happening, so this is definitely out as a choice. So forget that guy. I'll move on to the next row. So we'll assume P is true and Q is false. See what happens here. So if I'm thinking P is true and Q is false, we're still analyzing not P, implying not P and Q. So the opposite of P in this situation is false, implying false, and because not P is false, and Q is false. And I don't even really care what this says, because anytime the conditional starts with false, the answer is true. So the second row should be true. So this guy's out. And now, I guess we'll get it figured out in the next turn. When P is false and Q is true, when P is false and Q is true, what happens to not P implying not P and Q? If P is false, not P is true, implies not P is true and Q is also marked as true. So now I do need to take a little bit of time to figure out what is going on. If you have an and statement and they're both marked as true, it's true. We have true implies true. That is always true. Oh, and that didn't help me eliminate anything. What a waste of time. So I'll do my last one. Here's my brain. This time we'll look at P being false and Q being also false. So we're still thinking about not P implying not P and Q. So not P is true, implying not P and Q. Yeah, which is false. So now to process this, parentheses first. It's an and statement I'm focusing on. And ands are only true when both parts are true. Otherwise they're false. So this whole thing ends up being false. So that gives me T implies F. And that's the only time conditional statements are marked as false, when the first part's true and the second part's false. So overall, this is going to be false. So this is wrong. And it ends up being choice A. So you can hopefully see how I'm taking like each row, just those first two conditions, thinking about them one at a time. I'm writing the statement out. I'm replacing them with their respective Boolean value of true or false. And then I'm using all the rules that I know about those values to determine which table matches. You don't necessarily even need to cross things off as you go. Had I been being a little more clever, I wouldn't have wasted time on this one, because I would have noticed that that would not have helped me figure out which of these two things was correct anyways. But I'll do the other one in the same way to see, so you can see how this works. Because I know you guys can do this, but we practice it slightly differently in class. So I just want you to feel prepared.